Hi guys, it's Sam here from Garage Hammer Tactics, and today we're going to be going through a Legion review. The first one we're going to cover is my favourite Legion, the original Chaos Space Marines, the fanatics of the Imperium, the Word Bearers. So first off, we're going to start off with their rules. So the Word Bearers are the 17th Legion. Okay, and they have the Legion Astartes rule, as with everyone. Units with a special rule may always attempt to regroup at the null leadership value regardless of casualties. Pretty standard there, every single Legion gets that. Following on from that, we have True Believers. All units with the Legion Astartes Word Bearers special rule roll 3d6 for all morale checks and must pick the two lowest dice. Now those of you who have played Word Bearers played Word Bearers or played against Word Bearers know how strong this can be. It is almost a pseudo-fearless. I very rarely see Word Bearers running on the table because that 2d6 pick the lowest combined with some of the other things you can do, i.e. a Legion Vexilla, means that these Word Bearers are not running anytime soon. Okay, then we have Cut Them Down. All units with Legion Astartes Word Bearer special rule must always make sweeping advances when possible and must re-roll sweeping advance rolls of a 1. Okay. It doesn't always come up, re-rolling the 1. I would have liked it, preferably, if it had been re-roll all failed sweeping advances, but some people would say that's a bit strong. But it's a nice to have when it does pop up. Okay, and then we have Charismatic Leadership. Any primary detachment force chosen from the Word Bearers Legion must take a second compulsory HQ choice on the force organisation chart, where a second choice is allowed. This choice must always either be a Centurion or Chaplain Consul. Okay, this one is a bit of a downer. It does limit us slightly in terms of the rite of wars and the certain characters we can take. Yeah, but it is very fluffy. You know, when you think of Word Bearers, you think of chaplains or dark apostles. Okay, and this fits that sort of niche nicely. Overall, these rules aren't the strongest, but they certainly aren't the weakest. They allow for a sort of overarching playstyle. You don't have to force yourself into the combat role or the shooting role. You can play a bit of everything, because your rules don't hamper you from doing that. What I'd like to see moving forward is True Believers get a bit of a rewrite. You know, in future books, maybe if they revisit the Word Bearers, I'd like to see it be for all leadership checks, not just morale checks, because I don't think that if you're a True Believer, you're really going to be that bothered by fear, especially as later on down in the heresy, when the Word Bearers start dealing with the warp, they're not really that afraid of demons as they come into contact with them quite often. Again, it also comes in regard with pinning checks. I think the True Believers 3d6 should apply for all of those and not just for morale checks. But as it is, that is the rule, so that's how we play it. So moving on, we have our Legion specific console. Okay, and he is the Diabolist. Okay, and he is a Word Bearer who's already become engulfed in the unholy law of chaos and has paid the forfeit with their soul. Okay, he's a plus 35 point upgrade. Okay, and he gains the Demon Special Rule and Preferred Enemy Loyalist Special Rules added to all their close combat attacks, in addition to any other weapon effects. Now, some people like to argue that that doesn't confer to the unit he joins. I don't think this is rules as intended, or indeed rules as written. He gets Preferred Enemy Loyalist when he attacks in close combat, so that would then apply to the unit that he is attached to. And if you read the latest FAQ, Preferred Enemy confers over to the unit you're joined to. Okay, further to that, he may not be equipped with a Space Marine bike or Space Marine jet bike, Terminator armor, a Power Fist, or Thunder Hammer. Okay, so he's not going to be the strongest duelist. You're going to be equipping him with Power Axe or another power weapon. Or I have seen people running with dual lightning claws, and that's come out as quite strong. However, I would think for the AP2 goodness, I would just stick with Power Axe. If a Diabolist is present in a Word Bearers force, then that force also has access to the Dark Channeling option, listed as follows for certain of its units. Okay, yeah, I think personally Dark Channeling, if you're going to go for an infantry heavy force, is incredibly powerful. A 25 upgrade that gives you a number of different abilities, all of which will buff your units. And I think, it gives us that little bit of niche, that gives us a little bit of flavour that other legions don't have, as it's something that, we can give to our squads. And it allows for some awesome converting possibilities. I've done it myself, made some Mhara Gal. Those of you who know the fluff, the Mhara Gal was sort of the second incarnation of the Word Bearers Possessed, or indeed the Gal Vorbak. Okay, and they've done basically made some possessed Mark III Marines and given them Dark Channeling to represent that. Okay, it's really fluffy and really narrative driven. Okay, so we'll look at Dark Channeler now. As I said before, it cost plus 25 points per squad. Okay, and you roll a d6, and this is before the game begins. Okay, on a 1 to 3, the unit gains the Zealot special rule. Okay, on a 4 to 5, the unit gets a +1 strength for the duration of the battle. Okay, on a 6, the unit gains the Demon special rule for the duration of the battle. Okay, and it's got a little asterisk there that if the Demon result is rolled, the unit may no longer count as scoring regardless of its type, and counts as destroyed at the end of the game for the purposes of calculating victory points where this is relevant. Okay, so overall, as I said before, really strong table. Okay, I personally would always try and go for the Zealot special rule, as re-rolling hits in the first round of combat and being essentially fearless is awesome, especially on your line troops such as your tactical squads, and your Terminator squads. Okay, 4 to 5, you gain +1 strength for the duration of the battle. Also pretty good because especially on Terminators, strength 10 power fists. You can't really sniff at that. The chance to wipe out custodes in one punch, really strong. Hey, and then the Demon special rule, this is the hard one. Okay, it is 1 in 6, so every 6th dice, in theory, if you do a bit of math hammer, you're going to get the Demon roll. However, it's not too bad. You're still, on your basic line units, you're going to get 5+ invuln, and you're going to cause fear. So still pretty strong. Yes, you count as being destroyed for the purposes of victory points. Yes, you don't count as scoring. However, you do have a little bit. You're still a denial unit, and you do have a little bit more resilience. Hey, and as before, it is fluffy. If you play with the dark warps, if you mess in warp energy, sometimes it bites back, and that's represented brilliantly with this table. So overall, like I said, I strongly, from a narrative point, think you should always take a Diabolist, especially as he adds that much needed flavour to a Wordbearer's Legion. Okay, next one up, we're going to talk about the Legion specific war gear. Okay, so we have the following occult war gear. Okay, we have the Burning Law. Any Wordbearer's Praetor, Diabolist, Centurion or Chaplain has access to the Burning Law war gear upgrade, representing the warp-tainted incarnations inscribed on their armour, on parchments and books chained and mounted about them. This upgrade turns them into a level 1 psyker with access to the Biomancy or Telepathy discipline and costs 30 points. Okay, massively strong. And we'll talk about that later on when I talk about sort of the combinations you can create within a Wordbearer's army. Hey, yeah, I almost always give it to my Praetor, my Chaplain, and indeed my Diabolist. Hey, as that little psychic power, the chance to roll Iron Arm, the chance to get endurance, the chance to get warp speed, all these things just buff up your, an already melee-centric character to become an absolute beatstick. I've seen a basic Wordbearer's Praetor before completely kill Rauderon and Sigismund just because he had warp speed, and it meant that he just wiped out the character before he could do anything in retaliation. Okay, yeah, then we have the Wordbearer's specific special weapon. Okay, and it's a tainted weapon. Any Wordbearer's character with the option to take a power weapon may take a tainted weapon instead at the same cost. A tainted weapon is range dash, as it's a melee weapon, strength as user, AP dash, it's melee, special weapon or specialist weapon, and instant death. Okay, it's not the greatest weapon, this one. I still take it, again, for the fluff reasons, and because it's a good offhand weapon, especially if you're Praetor. You get those 7 attacks on the charge, or 6 attacks or 6 attacks, sorry. 6 attacks if you're just fighting in normal combat. Okay, as we said before, combine that with Burning Law, especially if you roll for Iron Arm, and then you could just be using 7 attacks without using your Paragon Blade, using this, and you've got 7 AP2 attacks with instant death. I don't need to tell you how strong that is. Okay, it also works again on a Chaplain. The chance you could roll Iron Arm there and get an instant death causing Chaplain. Excellent. Okay, as a weapon itself, it's not the greatest. However, as a support weapon for your characters, it works really well, especially as it can be combined with those specialist weapons that you may or may not already have. Okay, next we're going to talk about the unique rite of war, the Dark Brethren. Okay, the effects. Arch Traitors. All independent characters in a detachment using this rite of war gain the preferred enemy Loyalist Space Marine special rule. Signs and portents. The controlling player must selects a single unit from the detachment troop choice at the start of the game. Do this after the point before the game begins. Roll a d6. On a result of a 1 to 3, all opposing units count as having preferred enemy special rule against this unit. On a result of 4 to 6, these units counts as having preferred enemy special rule against all opposing units. Okay, then we have From Beyond. A primary detachment that uses this Rite of War may take alloys from the Codex Chaos Demons as battle brothers, and Hell follows with them. All wounds caused by perils of the warp test can be taken by the opposing force, gain the instant death special rule. Okay, and then we go into the limitations. Detachments using this Rite of War must take at least one Diabolist as an HQ choice. Detachments using this Rite of War may not take more than one heavy support choice as part of its primary detachment on its force organisation chart. And finally, detachments using this Rite of War may not take a fortification or allied Space Marine Legion detachment and treat all other allies, except demons, as desperate allies. Okay, so let's summarise this Rite of War. Hey, before we're talking sort of 2016, 2017 era, this was a really good Rite of War. Yeah, okay, it did put a lot of restrictions on you, but you got to take demons as allies, and that was something no one else could do. So it was a good, it was a good Rite of War. It was very fluffy. It was very narrative. Okay, now it's useless. The reason I say it's useless is because really the only bonuses you're getting from taking this Rite of War is the preferred enemy loyalist Space Marines on your independent characters. Okay, if it was on your characters, then your whole army would have preferred enemy, which I could see is probably not some people would say it's a bit strong, but when you look at what you're losing, okay, you'd have to take a Diabolist. That's all 3 of your HQ choices locked out, because remember we have to take a Chaplain or Centurion as a compulsory secondary HQ. Okay, we can only take 1 heavy support slot. Heavy support slot is usually a popular choice because we want to fill out all those 3 slots with all the goodness the heavy support slot provides. Medusas, heavy support squads, Predators, Sicarans, all the good stuff is in the heavy support slot. So only be limited to 1, really hurts you. Okay, and then the worst one is From Beyond. You're able to take a detachment using this Rite of War from Codex Chaos Demons. Hey, it has not been in an errata, but I guarantee if you try to go to any event and say, oh yeah, it says here rules as written I can take from the old Chaos Codex, they'll say nope, demons are Roomstorm, that's what you take from. And everyone can do that now. Every single traitor army is sworn brothers with demons, so therefore the point of this Rite of War is completely gone just by being out of date. It's not been updated, so at the moment it is pretty useless. So I would mark and avoid. Personally, I have run it quite a few times because I like to be narrative, I like to be fluffy, and play the game from a casual standpoint. That's what we're all about here at Garage Hammer. That's why it's called Garage Hammer, because the idea is that we don't take ourselves too seriously. We just play games in a garage. Yeah, I've used it, but I wouldn't on the whole recommend it, especially as someone starting out with the Word Bearers, because it limits you far too much. Okay, so next up we're going to look at the next Rite of War. Next up we're going to talk about the second Rite of War the Word Bearers get, which is Last of the Serrated Sun. Okay, let's look at the effects. Okay, Gal Vorbak, Dark Brethren may be taken as troop choice in a primary detachment using this Rite of War. All units of the Gal Vorbak have access to a Legion drop pod and Ambulas pattern Dreadclaw drop pod as a dedicated transport and must take one of these options. Any unit with access to a Rider armoured transport as a dedicated transport may instead take a Legion drop pod. Okay, and Burning Sun. Enemy units within 12 inches of the landing point of a deep striking Legion drop pod or Ambulas pattern Dreadclaw drop pod must take a pinning test after the vehicle's final position is determined. Limitations. All infantry units in the army must deploy via deep striking drop pod, by teleportation if such an option is available, or be transported inside a flyer that has sufficient transport capacity to carry them. The army may not include any immobile units. The army may not include a fortification detachment or an allied detachment. Okay, so let's summarise that. I've seen plenty of people use this Rite of War because it's Gal Vorbak as troops, and the prevailing theory is they aren't scoring even though they are troop choices because they can never be scoring, but we'll get to that in a bit. However, it doesn't really matter if there's nothing left of your enemy to score those victory points. The amount of Gal Vorbak you can field, especially in sort of a 3,000 point game, you'll just wipe your opponent off the board. And that's one prevailing theory of how to play this army. I personally, again, think this is another naff Rite of War. It doesn't offer the same sort of flexibility other Rite of Wars involving drop pods do. I mean, we look at the Blood Angels with their Rite of War that involves drop pods. I can't remember the name of it right now. However, those of you out there, let me know in the comments. Tell me I'm being a tit and I've forgotten it. yeah, that one, everything, you can have jump infantry come down. This one, you have to have anything you do have coming in from deep strike has to come in by teleportation. So you can't even jump deep strike your jetpack troops. Your Gal Vorbak have to be in dreadclaws or drop pods, and they're bulky, so they're only getting 5 men per pod. So you can have no character support, and you can't get those characters down because you can't deep strike them using a jetpack. So it really limits on how you're going to, how it sort of forces you down to only play this army a certain way. And I'm not really a fan of that. I'm not really a fan of rites of war that force you to only play one specific way and don't allow for, different iterations of that list. So like I said, I've seen plenty of people use this Rite of War, but they all seem to have identical lists because of the way the Rite of War is written. So moving forward, if they ever relook at it, I'd like to see them redo this Rite of War. Again, just give it a bit more of a open sort of narrative. Let people come up with different variations of it, how to play it better. Because at the moment, I think it's too restricting. But that seems to be the case of both Rites of War of the Word Bearers. Okay, the Word Bearers is their last sort of rules update was 2015. They have had 2 essential black books full of lore and different units, but their rules are starting to show their age now, especially when you look at some of the more recent legions and the rules they got. But that's the case for a lot of legions. We're certainly not in a bad spot. There are definitely legions in a worse spot than we are. However, it does mean if you are playing Wordbearers and you want that win, you are on an uphill struggle. But you're not here because you want to win. You're here because you want to hear about the word of our Saviour and Father, Lorgar Aurelian. Okay, next up we're going to talk about the Wordbearers specialist units, and the first one is the Mhara Gal Tainted Dreadnought. Okay, and he costs a whopping 305 points. And what do you get for that? Well, he's front armour 13, side 12, and rear 11. So already he's got 1 armour more on his rear than a normal Contemptor. So he isn't going to get shot by bolters from in his arse. Hey, he's initiative 5, attacks 3, and has 4 hit points. And he's weapon skill 6. So he's got the same weapon skill as a Praetor and the same hull points as a Land Raider. So yeah, he is quite resilient in that case. Hey, special rules. He's got Fleet, Demon, It Will Not Die, The Earth Recoils, Shroud of Darkfire, Accursed, and Adamantium Will. Okay, we'll go into some of those in a bit. However, the first one, Fleet, is the standard across all Contemptors. Hey, he's got the Demon rule, so he's always got that 5+ invulnerable save. Whereas a normal Contemptor would get a 6 up, especially when he'll get that 6 up when he's in combat. Okay, but I do not think that these rules alone are worth that 305 point price tag, as you could get 2 bog standard Quartz Contemptors. Yeah, okay, they'd be slightly weaker, but they do get buffs in other places. You get 2 of those for the price of this one guy, so I think he's a bit overcosted. Okay, so what does he come with stock? A Tainted Power Claw with an inbuilt Cursed Bolt Splitter and a Warp Fire Plasma Cannon. Hey, the Warp Fire Plasma Cannon is quite cool actually, I like it. Range 36, Strength 8, AP 2, Heavy 1, Blast 3 inches, and Howling Death. Okay, any unit suffering at least 1 casualty from this weapon must take a morale check as they just lost 25% of their number at -1 leadership. I've done this before, where I've shot at a unit that was on the backfield. Okay, it made it run, and it immediately ran off the table. At first turn, the opponent was like, "What's just happened?" So that is quite a fun thing to do. Hey, but again, that points cost is really puts me off taking the Mhara Gal, because you're investing so many points in something that could die potentially first turn. Okay, so we'll look at some of his rules. We've got the Shroud of Darkfire. Hey, any heat, fire, or plasma-based weapon, most of these will be identified by fire, volkite, fusion, flame, or plasma, or melter in the description. Okay, has its attacks reduced by -1 strength when striking the Mhara Gal. Yeah, that's cool. Melter weapons aren't going to be great, especially as he can't take Armoured Ceramite, therefore strength 7 melter. But if they are within that melter range, it's probably not going to help you that much. Okay, any model assaulting the Mhara Gal with toughness value less than 7 or a facing armor value less than 13 suffers -1 to hit modifier in close combat. Yeah, that's great. If any of you have played against Custos with a shield, -1 to hit in combat is really strong. And box dreads are going to hit this on are going to hit some 5s. Hey, and normal dreads, in fact, are going to hit this on 4s due to the, or normal contemporary dreads due to the fact they're only weapon skill 5. So yeah, on the whole, not a bad rule. If the Mhara Gal suffers an explode result, instead of the following usual procedure, replace them all with a massive blast 7-inch marker. All models touched by the template suffer strength 6 AP 5 hit with the Soul Blaze special rule, whose effects are determined as per a barrage attack. Yeah, okay. So he's got all these cool rules, and he's got a downside where he gets a bin lid for a explosive result. So let's hope everyone just glance him to death. Okay, we've got the Accursed. Fear text against the Mhara Gal taking -2 leadership penalty. It's not great in the world of Astartes in these days, where most things are immune to fear. However, it does come up, and it is quite nice. The Mhara Gal can never count as a scoring unit, regardless of the mission being played or the rules of the detachment or force organisation to which it belongs. In Age of Darkness games, it still counts as a denial unit, however. Most Contemptors aren't scoring units. In fact, I'm pretty sure all of them are, unless you're playing a specific mission, so that one doesn't really matter too much. All models with a Demon and or Psycho special rule in members of the units which are subject to a Blessing type Psycho power within 6 inches of the Mhara Gal at the end of the Mhara Gal's controlling player's turn, each suffer an automatic Strength 5 AP2 ignores cover hit. This occurs regardless of such a factor as a line of sight, cover, or whether or not the victim can be seen or targeted, or which side the model belongs to. Okay, so this one is a bit of a downside. I'm not sure why they decided to put this rule in there, because, you're playing Wordbearers. Your whole thing is that you have loads of demonic units. Our favourite unit is the Gal Vorbak, and you want to keep those guys well away from this guy. So it's sort of standing on your own foot, and it really puts off. Even you ignore the price tag. Even just as a Wordbearers player, why would you ever take this dreadnought? Even in the photo, if you look in the red book, he stood next to Gal Vorbak, and yet in tabletop that would just never happen because you'd just be hampering yourself from the get-go. Oh, and finally we have the Earth Recoils. Okay, the Mhara Gal ignores completely the effects of difficult terrain and or dangerous terrain and passes through the obstacles up to 1 inch across without penalty or need for an aperture to move through. It cannot end its turn inside an obstacle, and therefore must be sufficient space for the model to be placed on the end of the movement. Okay, this makes him god tier in Zone Mortalis because he can just walk through walls. And trust me, I've seen opponents on the receiving end of one of these just go, what on earth just happened? And when, their lines get torn up by one of these. So overall, I would say Mhara Gal is a bit of a meh unit. Hey, he's got some good rules, don't get me wrong, but the price tag and the fact that he hampers the rest of your army being demons means that, he's probably, it was a swing and a miss by Forge World. Lovely narrative unit, by all means, if you like me, you just like to play narratively. I mean, I own one, and I take him, for casual games. But, if I was going to an event, maybe, I probably wouldn't take him because I'm just shooting myself in the foot before I begin, and it's wasted points. But yeah, that's the Mhara Gal Tainted Dreadnought. Okay, next up we have the Gal Vorbak Dark Brethren. Okay, my favourite unit for the Wordbearers. Okay, so what do they offer over a normal Marine? Well, they have Weapon Skill 5, Ballistic Skill 4, Strength 5, Toughness 5, 2 wounds, Initiative 5, Attacks 2, Leadership 8, and a 3+ save. Unless you're the Dark Martyr, of course, who's there as Sergeant, and he gets 3 wounds. Okay, they're 200 points base, which is, reasonably costed for what they do. They have all the normal things that a Marine has: bolt pistol, bolt gun. They have an extra chainsaw or combat blade, frag and crack grenades, power armor, and they have the demon special rule. They're stubborn. They have the bulky special rule, rage, rending, deep strike, and they're damned. And damned means that they can basically never be scoring. Okay, yeah. So all in all, these are the reason that Wordbearers do not have Terminators, because we have these absolute beasts. My only downside with them is that they're not 2+ armor save. I get that Officer armor would have made them ridiculously strong and probably a bit too overpowered, but in this world of custodes and demons and all manner of AP3 weapons, you need to transport them properly. I myself have them in 2 Land Raiders, and I just have like demon party buses just trundle forward because I've run them on the field just running around, and they just get pie plated or shot or anything before they even get anywhere near anybody. Okay, they're really good. They're really good at taking on power armor. They're not so good against Terminators because you're sort of fishing for those 6s. Where I think this unit really stands across the test of time, though, is the fact that the Sergeant has got 3 wounds and he's Strength 5 and can take a Power Fist for plus 15 points. So you're rocking around with a Centurion level character, but with an extra wound, extra strength, extra toughness, and he has rage. So on the charge, he has 5 strength, 10 AP2 power fist attacks. ridiculously strong, and that's one of the reasons I take Gav Vorbak is simply for that guy, because it just means I've got an extra close combat beat stick floating around the table that people just really struggle to take down, especially as you give him Artificer armor, and he's got toughness 5, 2 up save, 5 up invuln, and he's got that strength 10 hit. He is. I have wiped out warlords with a Dark Martyr before. The fact that they'll hit you, the Paragon Blade, they've got to get 6s to instant kill you. They might cause a wound, because they need 3s to hit, then 4s to wound. They might cause a wound, they might cause 2, but you've got that 5 up invuln. Oh, and then when you return in kind, you're hitting on 4s, but if you charge, you've got 5 attacks. So Math Hammer would say you'd probably get 3, and you need 2s, and they just have to fail 1 save, and they're just instantly gone. Really strong. So overall, this is a really good unit, and I think it's a staple unit for any Gav Vorbak player. Everyone should have Gav Vorbak floating around, unless of course you're playing Great Crusade era, or you're for some reason you're playing Loyalist Wordbearers, which doesn't actually. Let me know in the comments if any of you play Loyalist Wordbearers. I've never seen a Loyalist Wordbearers army. I didn't think it was a thing, but some people out there like to play what they like to play, and that's completely fine. So if there is a Loyalist Wordbearers army, let me know. It'd be interesting to see what it looks like. But yes, Gav Vorbak, really good unit. Okay, next up we have the Ashen Circle. Okay, the Ashen Circle are the iconoclasts of the Wordbearers. Okay, and they were sent to sort of purge all false belief of anything other than the Imperial truth. They're a really cool unit in the lore. The idea that they just descend from the heavens, torching everything in their wake. Really, really cool unit. But rules-wise, okay, so they have had a FAQ, which has updated the rules, which is sorely needed because you never really saw them before that. And their rules are as follows. So their weapon skill 5. Apart from that, they're normal marine stats, as you would imagine. Okay, but their weapon skill 5 is really good because they get that edge in combat. Okay, what are they armed with? Okay, they've got hand flamers. Now hand flamers are okay, but they are strength 3, so against marines you're not really going to do much, especially if you fight against breachers or anything with hardened armor. They're definitely not going to, but they're just going to bounce off you. Then you have axe rakes. Now axe rakes are strength +1, AP 3, okay, and they are melee weapon, and they are also grapple. And grapple is a special rule that basically involves -1 to whatever you roll on your sweeping advance, or not your sweeping advance, whatever they roll on their initiative roll off. So they get -1 to whatever they roll to see if you can sweep them down better, which is excellent. Okay, and the AP3 means they're cutting through power armor. These guys in any sort of weighty numbers, I'd recommend taking 10. They are disgusting in combat because you're looking at probably 2 attacks. If you're not charging, you've got 2 attacks per guy plus 1 extra 1 on the sergeant, so you're looking at 21 attacks on just normally from a level 10. 21 attacks with weapon skill 5 AP3 is nothing to sniff at. Incredibly strong. Also, a really good unit. Okay, and then if you take certain characters, they can become scoring, which makes them even better. So all in all, really good unit for the Wordbearers. Really good now that they've had their FAQ. Okay, some people might sniff and say, no, you've got to use the old rules, but I've not seen anyone say that. Most events allow the new FAQ rules because they are, much better, and they really help that struggling unit. Okay, now we're moving on to the characters. And firstly, we have the biggest dick in the heresy, High Chaplain Erebus. Okay, so he cost 195 points. Okay, and what do you get for that 195 points? Well, not a lot. A lot of people online, so I've had many discussions on sort of the Facebook pages as to why anyone would take Erebus, and what I tend to be told is that, he's a really good support character. He fulfills both those Chaplain and Diabolist limits, so if you wanted to take the Dark Brethren Rite of War, and none of that is selling him to me, because he's 195 points. I could take a Praetor for cheaper than that, and that Praetor could have Burning Law. Would also have a Paragon Blade, and also, he's a really good support character, but I don't need a support character because I've got a Chaplain that can take an AP2 Power Axe, and then not only is he supporting my units really well, or he can also take Burning Law. So not only is he giving my unit zealot, like Erebus is. He's also got power axe, and when it is his turn to fight, he isn't swinging and missing. I should probably point out, High Chaplain Erebus, his weapons are as follows. He's got Artificer Armour, War Gear. Artificer Armour, Iron Halo, Frag and Crack Grenades, Plasma Pistol, Mastercrafted Power Maul. So he's Strength +2, AP 4. So unless you're fighting Mechanicum or Solar Auxilia, his combat ability is useless. And that's the sort of trick here. If I've got a support character floating around, I want him to be good in combat. I want him to support the guys fighting. It's no good him having an AP4 weapon he's got these other special rules, and we'll go through them now. But a lot of them, show his age. He's not had an updated points cost. He's not had an updated rules, and so I really don't think that outside of narrative, he's worth taking over a normal character. Over a normal console like, say, a Chaplain. Okay, so he's got the Marked by Dark Fates. Fates hold an eternity of war for Erebus. In campaign games where the character casualties and injury battles between battles is a factor, any such chart result for Erebus may be re-rolled. Okay, yeah, so if you play narrative games and he dies, you can re-roll what you roll for him. Yeah, it's okay. It's nice to have. Okay, Harbinger of Chaos. If Erebus is your army's warlord, then its units may benefit from Dark Channeling, say page 93. And the army may take an allied contingent from Codex Chaos Demons if desired. Okay, yeah, so we've already spoken about why that's not the greatest anymore, because essentially you can already take Demons of Rumstorm as Sworn Brothers without taking Erebus. Okay, and Dark Chan, yeah, you can get it from a Diabolist. Okay, yeah, I understand he counts as a Diabolist and a Chaplain, but I'm still not sold by his 195 point cost. Okay, and he's got his Warlord trait, Intimidating Presence. All enemy units within 12 inches of High Chaplain Erebus must use their lowest leadership value, not their highest. Okay, yeah, fighting against Marines, lowest one would be 8, highest one would be 9. So it's not really that much of a massive leadership drop for it to really mean anything. So all in all, I'm not really sold on Erebus. I mean, I like him in the books. I think he's the sort of moustache twizzling, like, all-round bad guy, and I'm all about that. I'm all about being the bad guy in Heresy, but I don't think that he is all he's cracked up to be. But if you disagree, or if you know a combination of how to get him to work that I've not thought of or have not come across, please do let me know in the comments. Okay, up next we have Kor Phaeron, first captain of the Word Bearers, and the Priest King of Cultists, and he comes in at 155 points, so he's cheaper than Erebus. And what do we get for that? Well, he gets a Marine stat line for Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 4. He's Strength 4, Toughness 3, 4 wounds, Initiative 3 with 2 attacks, Leadership 10, and a 2+ save. Okay, and he's counted as being in a weird form of Cataphracti armour. He's got a Player of Lightning Cores, and he's got a Digiflamer. Okay, he's got Burning Law, as you'd expect. And he can only be taken as part of a Traitor Legion. Okay, again, he's great in narrative games. I probably wouldn't ever run him in a normal game, though, because for 155 points, he's got 4 wounds, but he'll be doubled out by a Power Fist wielding Solar Auxilia Force Commander, and he's got past them 4-up saves. Here he's got Burning Law, but you can get Burning Law, on your Praetors. So all in all, I probably wouldn't take Kor Phaeron. He's not the greatest. Again, I don't really rate any of the special characters from the Word Bearers, which is a shame because I really like the Legion and I really want the characters to be good, and they just don't fit the bill, especially when you look at some of the other characters in other Legions and how good they are. Okay, and I'm not even talking about the big hitters like Sigismund or Raldoron or Corswain when we get his rules. I'm just looking at like Garviel Loken, for example. Some of the more famous people of the heresy and their cool little rules. Even like Alexis Pollux or Nomus Raitan from the Salamanders. All these guys have got some really cool rules, and I find that the Word Bearers just don't even. I know they're supposed to be support characters. I know they're meant to be. They sort of reflect their father and they're not strongest. But something just give them a power axe or a AP2 weapon, and I'd take him all the time. But it's the fact that you're missing out on that, that armour. I mean, they're always going to be in combat. They're always going to be a duel. They're not going to sit back and, babysit your guns. So give him a proper combat weapon. But that's it for these two characters. We're moving on. Okay, so up next we have Zardu Layak. Okay, he's got the Azurda Charis, which is his staff. He's got bolt pistol, panoply of flame, frag and crack grenades, and artificer armor. Awesome. Cool, and then he's got his various special rules. So he's got Master of the Legion, Independent Character, Demon, Binder of Souls, Zealot, Psycho level 2, and he must select powers from Pyromancy or Malefic Demonology disciplines. And if he's your army's warlord, he has the Rain of Fire trait rather than rolling normally. Okay, and let's go into what the Panoply of Flame does, for example. So, all models of the Legion's Ties Wordbearer special rule. Within 12 inches of the Panoply of Flame, add +1 modifier to their score for deciding their combat results when determining victory in assaults, and +1 to their sweeping advance rolls. In lieu of making one of Zardu Layak's normal shooting attacks, in the panoply may be used as a heavy flamer once per game. Yeah, cool. So you get heavy flamer, not great, not terrible, and the fact that he adds +1 modifier, which is really good. You remember we're all about sweeping in the Word Bearers. It's one of our little Legion traits. Okay, and that does come up. I've been on the receiving end of Zardu's sweep before, or his +1 to combat res, and it was really annoying. So yeah, so far really good in support. Hey, Zardu Layak counts as Diabolist for the various rules pertaining to his Legion, its rights of war, etc. And in addition, units in an army containing Layak may benefit from Dark Channeling with a +1 modifier on the Dark Channeling table. If an army has Zardu Layak as warlord, then the allied attachment may be chosen from Codex Chaos Demons. Okay, so that last bit then, as we already know, it's pretty useless because we can take demons anyway. He does get +1 modifier on the Dark Channeling, which is good. However, I'd argue that you don't necessarily want demon all the time. So rolling a demon on a 5 or a 6 is makes them slightly makes it a slightly more risky venture, but it's fluffy as anything. I can't imagine Zardu running around with some normal blokes. He would always run around with like demonic as anything. I mean, he is known as the Thriceborn, the Binder of Souls, and the Voice of the Unspeaking. Those are some cool titles. Cool, and then his warlord trait is if Zardu Layak is the army warlord, then Ashen Circle units may be taken as troop choice for the army's primary detachment instead of fast attack, and they become scoring. And in addition, these units must be given Dark Channeling. So, Dark Channeling Ashen Circle, really cool. You've got these iconoclasts that fly down, flaming everything, and they're also fanatic as anything. So, from a fluff perspective, Zardu is a really cool character, really awesome. I mean, he's toughness 5, so he's Gal Vorbak level toughness. The only thing I think is lacking is that his Azurda Charis is strength +2, AP 4, melee, force, and two-handed. So again, like I said before, if you're going to have a support character, he's going to get in combat. You need that AP 2 goodness. You need to be cutting through power armor. You ain't going to cut through like basic power armor with this, let alone artificer armor or terminator armor or any other sort of good things you're going to come across when you're fighting those dedicated close combat units. So on that alone, I probably wouldn't bring him, but I can see why other people don't. I've seen plenty of people use Zardu and they love using him. He's great here, and he has this really cool thing where he can bring his own blade slaves, which are sort of souped up Gal Vorbak. Won't touch too much on those because they're a bit of a Hampner. They're a bit like Lehman Ross's wolves. People don't tend to take them because they mean that he can only walk around with them. So if you want a transport for Zardu, he has to go, and his blade slaves, he can't join a unit. So those blade slaves are the only sort of HQ choice he can be, and then it sort of removes his all his buffs because he's only buffing his blade slaves. Cool, but actually out of the 3 characters that we've covered so far, he is the better one. Cool, and then we're going to move on now to my favourite of the Word Bearers characters, the only one without a model, but the one with the most sort of common sense, Hol Beloth, and that's coming up next. Okay, so moving on to a final character, coming in at a whopping 165 points, so somehow this guy is cheaper than Erebus, even though he's infinitely better. We have Hol Beloth, chapter captain of the Graven Star and the Death of Serenity Alpha. Hey, his weapons, he's got a Praetor stat line, flat through and through Praetor stat line. He does have a Mastercraft Power Fist, Tainted Weapon, a Plasma Pistol, Iron Halo, Frag and Crack Grenades, and Artificer Armor. Okay, and his special rules, obviously, he's a Word Bearer, Master of the Legion, Independent Character, Hexagrific Ward, Exhortation of Battle, and Warlord. If Hol Beloth is your Warlord, he has the bloody-handed trait rather than rolling randomly. Okay, and then Hexaglyphic Ward. So Hol Beloth ignores the first wound suffered as a result of a failed save in the game, even if that wound would normally inflict instant death. That's awesome. You know, that 6 that if you charge in, you've got a hit last anyway because you've got a Mastercrafted Power Fist. They hit roll a 6 on their Paragon Blade, and you're there like, I'm not ignoring that. It doesn't matter if I fail my save, you're not going to kill me. And then you come back and hit them with a Strength 8 Power Fist and wipe them out. I'm all about that. It's an awesome ability. Okay, Exhortation of Battle. So long as Hol Beloth is on the table and not falling back, then once per game, his controlling player can declare the use of this ability at the beginning of their assault phase. All models in the army with Legion Stars Wordbearer special increase their weapon skill to 5 for the duration of the assault phase, unless it would normally be equal to or higher than this. Again, really strong. Now, when you talk about a support unit for your army, your whole army being weapon skill 5 for one game turn, is really strong. You know, that crucial moment when you know you're going to be in combat with the majority of your army. Bing, you activate this, and then all of a sudden, you know, against majority of things, your opponent's now hitting you on 4s, or in some cases, you're now hitting them on 3s. Really strong, really like it. And then he's got the Bloody Handed, which is the Warlord. Any unit, Legion style special rule, they join Kor's Fear. Hey, not the greatest, but it's not terrible. But it's the other 2 rules that you get that make this guy a really strong contender in the Wordbearers. Yeah, he doesn't have Burning Law, but he does have 6 attacks on the charge due to the fact he's got Mastercraft Power Fist and he's got a Tainted Weapon. You know, he's only 165 points. I think he's a really, really good character, really worth it. Okay, and then that's it for the characters in the Wordbearers, apart from the man himself, the primordial truth, the Aurelian Lorgar. And that brings us now to the last but the very means not least character. We have the master of the Wordbearers, Aurelian, the Golden, the voice of truth. We have Lorgar. Okay, so what does he bring us? So for start off with, we have a slightly less Primarch stat line. However, don't worry, because it won't matter. We have weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 6, strength 6, toughness 6, only 5 wounds. He's initiative 6. He's got 4 attacks. He's leadership 10 and a 2+ save. Okay, he's got the Primarch special rule and all the rules that gives you. He's got living icon, sire of the Wordbearers, dark fortune, erratic psychic power, and bulky. Okay, and his war gear is the armor of the word, Illuminarium, the Architect Pistol, and Frag Grenades. Okay, so the Armour of the Word. The Armour of the Word gives him a 2+ armour save and a 4+ invulnerable save, and his invulnerable save is increased to a 3+ against any psychic empowered attack, including witchfire powers and blows from force weapons. Okay, this never used to be matter because Thousand Suns weren't really a thing, or neither were demons, but now, you know, if Lorgar came across demons, and he came across a demon that was psychically imbued with sort of Iron Arm, all of a sudden he's got a 3+ invulnerable save against him. That's really strong. Again, against Thousand Suns. Everyone always says, oh yeah, Thousand Suns are the premier psychic, and you're right, they are. They do have the most psychic powers, but Lorgar, 3+ invulnerable save against their attacks. So all of a sudden he's a force to contend with, and that's before you transfigure him, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so we have the living icon. Okay, all models in the same detachment with that have the Legion of Stars Wordbearer special rule who can draw line of sight to Lorgar, gain +1 to their charge distant rolls, and immune to fear, and a bonus of +1 to their total score to determine who has won an assault. That is again really strong. He gives +1 to combat res. They get +1 to their charge distant rolls. Okay, and they're immune to fear. Really strong. He's a really good support Primarch. He's and it really fits his sort of narrative. He is there glowing as a god, and all the Wordbearers in their belief are looking at him thinking, I am mighty because Lorgar is there. Okay, he's got Sire of the Wordbearers. He has the Crusader special rule and confers to any unit he joins. In addition, while he's on the table, all models in the same primary detachment which have the Legion of Stars Wordbearer special rule may use Lorgar's leadership for all morale checks and pinning tests. So all of a sudden your entire army is now leadership 10. Combine that with our 3d6, pick the 2 lowest from True Believers. Really strong. He gives so many buffs out. Okay, and despite the fact he's only weapon skill 6 and initiative, with 5 wounds, he is actually not too bad in combat. He's got his Archaeotech pistol, which is a pistol. Okay, and he's got the Illuminarium. Okay, the Illuminarium is a power maul. It's a power maul that's AP2, like Erebus should be, and like Zardu Layak should be, because they are special. You could say that they were forged especially, so that's why they have the extra AP bonus. And it is as follows: Strength +2, AP2, Melee, Mastercrafted, Concussive, and Smash. The Illuminarium is one sexy power maul. Strength makes him Strength 8, so he's doubling out Praetors. He's AP2. Cool, and because it's a melee weapon, not a specialist weapon, and your pistol is a pistol, he gets an extra attack, so he's actually 5 attacks base. So on the charge, he's got 6 attacks. So he's got more than some other Primarchs. Vulcan, Dawn, for example. Hey, don't ignore the weapon skill 6, because he's a Psyker. Okay, if you take him for his base cost of 375 points, he's got the erratic Psyker power. So let's look at that. He's a level 2 Psyker who can choose to roll powers from either Divination or Telekinesis disciplines. When wishing to manifest his powers, Lorgar successfully harnesses warp charges on the 5+ rather than the 4+, in order to be the case. Okay, so that's not great. However, there's no way I can talk. There's nothing I can say about that. 375 points, you get what you pay for. He's not great. However, he's still a mastery level 2 Psyker. Where he does come into plan is Lorgar Transfigured. But before we'll talk about Dark Fortune quickly. So, once per game, Lorgar may elect to force a single enemy model or unit to reroll all rolls of a 5 or a 6 with hit and wound Lorgar on any given player turn. The use of this power must be declared before attacking player rolls any dice for the attacks by the nominate model of that turn. Okay, and then they FAQ'd it in the last FAQ to say this also affects the unit Lorgar has joined. So if you're in combat with a sort of particularly beefy unit, boom, all of a sudden you can protect your unit by forcing your opponent to reroll all hits to 5 and 6, which is really strong. It means more misses, and all his and that's to wound as well. So any sort of special abilities that would initiate on a 6, they're potentially not getting those. Instant death on Paragon Blades, for example. Really, really strong, really, really good. And finally, we come to the piece de resistance of Lorgar Transfigured. Okay, so first of all, this costs plus 75 points. So it means he becomes 450 points. But don't worry, he's well worth that cost. So Lorgar Transfigured is a level 3 Psyker who may select, rather than randomly roll, 3 powers in any combination from the Divination and Telekinesis disciplines at the start of the game. When wishing to manifest these powers, Lorgar successfully harnesses warp charges on a roll of a 3+ rather than the 4+, as would normally be the case. Incredibly powerful. Not only is he now casting things on a 3+, he gets to pick his powers. That's insanely powerful. Picking his powers. So what you do is you take, I believe it's Forewarning. It's in the Divination. And you take Forewarning as one of your powers, and all of a sudden, Lorgar is rerolling all failed to hit, all failed to wound, and all failed saves. This is where he becomes an absolute combat monster. It doesn't matter if he's hitting on 4s. 6 attacks hitting on 4s with all the rerolls, is incredibly strong. He's already all failing to wound. He's wounding on 2s, but with rerolls. Okay, and then any hits you do get against him, even on a 4-up invuln, he's rerolling. Even more so if he gets his 3-up invuln against a cyclically imbued attack. He's still rerolling that. So this becomes incredibly strong. So all in all, I think Lorgar is well worth the points. Everyone thinks he is considered one of the weaker Primarchs. He's not the greatest, but his abilities and what he can bring to the table, how his Transfigured. I mean, basically, I've never seen anyone not run him Transfigured. I can imagine you would do if you were playing a campaign, Isfan, for example. But sort of Calf onwards, Lorgar's Transfigured all day long, and absolutely worth the points. He will absolutely wreck face. I've seen him come across, or personally using him, I've seen him kill Perturabo, Sanguinius, Guilliman, and Dawn. So it's 4 Primarchs I've killed using Lorgar because of the Transfigured, because of his chance to reroll everything. Okay, he probably still won't, come up against Russ. He probably struggle against Horus. But even against some of the more guaranteed sort of Primarch beatsticks, he still stands his own simply because of his psychic powers. Will this change because of Book 8 and the telekinesis, or wrong, not the telekinesis, the telepathic wargear, the specialist relics that particularly against psychers. I've not seen anyone I've not come across it where that's happened, but I have seen people use Icon of the Burning Sun a lot to negate psychic powers, but then he's still a Primarch, so you still have to contend with that. Okay, that about wraps it up for the review of the Word Bearers. Okay, like I said, they are my favourite Legion. They have so much lore behind them, so much you sort of feel sorry for them, and you understand why it is they turned, and their rules are, they really represent the sort of fanatic force that delve into the warp way before anyone else does. They understand things. They are sorcerers rather than psychers. They are not librarians. They dabble in the warp, but they let it touch them. They let it consume them. And we've spoken about the things I think are wrong with the rule set, about what I think went wrong with them. However, I think the pros massively outweigh the cons for me. Even though they are, I will agree, they are one of the weaker legions these days. I still think that they haven't. Anyone who loves sort of chaos side of things and really want to see Chaos Space Marines represented properly should absolutely play Word Bearers. They are great. Okay, and before I sign off, we're just going to go with a couple of combos that you can do. So we've got the Empath Bonds, which is one of the upgrades you can take from Book 8. And Empath Bonds allows you to upgrade 2 Psychers in your army to have the Eternal Warrior special rule. Okay, it's a plus 15 point upgrade for both your units. Okay, but they get Eternal Warrior special rule as long as the other one is still alive. Okay, and they can transfer wounds between each other. Now this is obviously done at a cost, but as long as you don't do that, also if one suffers Perils of Warp, they both do, but just don't cast any psychic powers. And if you do, cast it on minimal dice, so you're not going to perils, or you're less likely to perils. But it gives you Eternal Warrior on your Praetor. Now that is something really niche. Other than us, only 1,000 Suns can do that, which is a bit strong on them, I will admit. But we've got that ability to make two models or 2 characters in our unit Eternal Warrior. A Praetor with Eternal Warrior, a power at 7 attacks on the charge, and then whatever he rolls in the Biomancy table, you're looking at an incredibly strong character there. And that's just one of the things. Obviously, we synergize really well with demons. We've got the Diabolist that can summon demons. I've done this trick a few times before. You just, you take from demonology, and because Diabolist is a demon, he's not going to perils on doubles, he's just going to peril on double 6. Oh, and then you roll whatever you roll, but you're really just taking it for the Primaris power because you want summoning of lesser demons. And then you just summon 10 lesser demons, and you choose the upgrade. I usually go for either a 3+ save if I want them to sit there and tank hits, or I go for rending if I want them to actually go around and cause damage. But 10 lesser demons at 2, basically a Marine stat line, but with 2 wounds and fearless, is really strong, really strong. And you can summon those. It's walk charge free on 4 dice, so you've got just as much chance of perilsing as you do from casting it off. But it's really strong and worth doing. I've seen someone bring out 30 demons just out in front of me, and this was when I was playing against Word Bearers, and I just had to deal with the fact that there were now 30 demons flying about, and that was 30 demons more than I had to deal with at the beginning of the game. So it's really strong, and that's only available to the Word Bearers. Even 1,000 Suns would struggle to do that. But yeah, so that about wraps up this video, guys. So if you have got to the end, thank you for listening. Like, share and subscribe. We're doing really well now. We've got over 100 followers, and if you liked this video, let me know in the comments. We're going to try and do a few more videos like this. I've put myself, we've got Imperial Fists and Demons of Runestorm Creeping Scourge, so expect to see sort of tactical reviews of both of those. And then you'll see videos from Sean and his Blood Angels, and he's also doing Alpha Legion, and Tom's got his Death Guard. So we've definitely got, and we've got other guests that we can talk to about other legions, and then we'll hope to do over the sort of coming months every single legion, or at least a review. So if you like that, please stay tuned for the future videos. Well, thank you for listening, and I've been Sam.